Good afternoon. My name is Alan Hoare from TU Dublin and the Construction IT Alliance. I am your chair this afternoon. You've joined our Aistriú series, which is looking at transitioning towards a circular economy in the built environment. A series designed in association with the Chartered Institute of Building, GMIT, and the Irish Green Building Council. And CitA are delighted to host this series in 2021. In previous events, we've looked at the EU Green Deal and the circular economy in the context of the built environment. We've also looked at life cycle and whole life carbon thinking. So today we're going to explore how industry, importantly, and higher education can work together to transition towards a circular built environment. Our speakers this afternoon are Seamus Hoyne, Dean of Flexible Learning and Work-Based Learning, and also Director of Industry Engagement at Limerick IT. Mark Kelly, Lecturer in GMIT, and also Joseph Little, Assistant Head of School in the Dublin School of Architecture in TU Dublin. So you're all very welcome. Just by way of housekeeping, if I could ask if everyone could just turn off their video and mics before we start going through the program. If you have any questions this afternoon, maybe place them into the chat facility, and my role today will be to ensure that we finish on time, but also to ensure that we collate all those questions as we go through. So we hope to finish just before 2 p.m. So slide 3, Shannon, please. So just to bring you through the remaining series. So we're going to be looking at all the particular stakeholders that apply to this concept of circular economy. So in May, we'll be looking to see about the work of how local authorities are responding to it. Moving on in June to clients, design teams, contractors, manufacturers, and also the whole digitalization and how BIM can also help as a catalyst in transitioning towards the circular economy. And we'll also finish then as we merge towards circularity in city design and so on. So I'd just like to introduce you to our regional week next week for those of you who can join us. We have we have an event each day taking place during the same time as today's event. And we've got a number of speakers from the regions updating us on regional activity, but also hearing from a broad cross-section of industry in regard to digitalization, modern methods of construction, sustainability, and so on. So please consider joining us for our regional series. Shannon, slide 5, please. I also want to remind you of the CitA SkillNet and I suppose the opportunity for Irish private companies to avail of up to 30% funding on training. We've had a very, very busy program, and CitA has had over a decade now of success in securing SkillNet funding. So please consider availing of those opportunities. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. And so I'd like to go to our first speaker. Seamus, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Alan.
I'm going to just turn off my mic, Seamus. So Seamus, you're going to be bringing us through an introduction to the Digital Academy for a Sustainable Built Environment. Really interested to hear your story. Thank you.
Great.
So if you want to share your screen with us.
Yep. So hopefully that's available to everybody now.
All good to go.
Great. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and thanks, Alan, for the introduction. And it's great to be here this afternoon. As Alan said, my name is Seamus Hoyne. I'm Dean of Flexible and Work-Based Learning in LIT, and I wear 2 other hats also. I'm Director of Industry Engagement and currently also Development Manager in LIT, a role that I have been doing for the last 5 years and will be moving out of that since I've been appointed as Dean. Once they replace me, the joys of double jobbing in the higher education organization is one of the challenges. Maybe just a little bit of a background to myself first. I suppose I've worked in the energy sector for 25 years, having set up a company called Tipperary Energy Agency 23 years ago. I managed that for 14 years, moved into education space then and research and development space in 2007, and have worked and led a wide range of research and development projects in relation to sustainable energy. And a particular focus over the last number of years has been trying to look at the skills agenda within the built environment and sustainable energy generally, and how we can address that. So what I'm speaking to you today then is about a new initiative called the Digital Academy for the Sustainable Built Environment, which has been funded under the HEA Human Capital Initiative. So I'm going to take you through the background to it and what we aim to achieve over the next 4 years. So I suppose, critically, what's the problem statement in terms of, and we're focusing today particularly on education, higher education, and responding to the evolving focus on the circular economy. But we've had rapid and transformational change in terms of our planning and building regulations. We have the huge focus on climate action, and as Alan mentioned in his introduction, the focus on digitization. And all of these and many other changes require significant upskilling across all levels and areas in the construction sector, and particularly in relation to the built environment. And aligned with that, we have evolution in terms of the higher education space, and evolution over the last number of years in the kind of the structure of higher education, but also in evolution in the types and range and ways in which we design, develop, and deliver our programs. And DASB kind of seeks to kind of look at those problems and build a solution. I suppose one of the things that is I have spent a lot of time over the last number of years, particularly at a European level, is looking at the skills agenda. And there is certainly a huge buzz around the skills agenda when we look at European policy and European initiatives. So when you look to the European Green Deal and European Digital Strategy, behind all that, the European Commission and European Parliament and the Council are particularly focused on developing a skills workforce to deliver on the post-COVID recovery, and ultimately to be able to deliver on the ambitions that Europe has set in terms of our green and digital agendas. So we have a very strong policy framework at a European level. We have lots of activities and resources happening funded through Europe, and you can access a lot of that information through the Build Up portal, which is a European resource. So you can see lots and lots of activities and schemes happening across Europe. So this is not just an Irish problem, it's a European issue. And then we're trying to get a handle on what the demand and what the needs are also in Ireland. So the EGSFN, for example, the Expert Group on Future Skills Needs, have the report from 2020 and are currently doing a report on green skills for a green economy. So we know there is a challenge, we know there's a particular issue, and particularly within a construction sector and a building sector that is resource constrained, we need new ways of bringing upskilling to the market. And then we have multiple layers of upskilling and training and development required. So obviously we have the design and engineering professionals, for example. We have the crafts and the trades. We have construction workers who may not have a formal qualification, but are key to delivery of our ambitions. There's technical training, which is often the only thing that we talk about, but we also have critical upskilling in terms of managerial and supervision, because projects are becoming much more complex when we're looking at integrations of circular economy, digitization, energy standards. And then layered on top of that, we have the support services, so whether it's around leadership or financing, the customer journey, sales, all of these non-technical areas that need to be brought into the mix. So DASB then emerged out of lots of thinking around this space and an opportunity for funding under the Higher Education Authority's Human Capital Initiative, their Pillar 3 fund, as it was called. And we in LIT led a consortium who I'll introduce to you in a few minutes to build a proposal or to build a central academy, a central hub, digital hub that would enable this upskilling across the areas of the circular economy, energy efficiency and digitization. So we want to cover topics, everything from low energy or near zero energy buildings right up to virtual reality. We want to enable and support more rapid design, development and deployment of programs that meet industry needs. And for DASB, and I think the rest of the speakers today will be talking about our strong relationships with industry and how what we want to do is be agile and responsive. Clearly the last year has driven huge amount of education and training into the online and blended space, and that's where DASB in particular will focus its attentions. And we also want to explore opportunities in terms of micro credentials, so small bite-sized pieces of training and education that can be built up ultimately to get major awards. And then finally, we want to try and make sure that what we deliver in terms of new programs and education and training is informed by research and development, both kind of a local and national and international level, and that we, through the network of partners, can meet local industry demand kind of through local provision. So ultimately what we're trying to achieve over the next 4 years is to grow a suite of online and blended programs in the relevant fields. So again, covering circular economy, energy efficiency and digitization in particular. So growing that to a range of 40 programs, engaging over 2,000 learners by 2025. Typically in higher education, we operate in many silos. So one of the innovations we want to look at is how the 3 higher education organizations involved in DASB can work together to share resources, expertise and knowledge to develop new programs in a more responsive manner. So that's our D3 approach, design, development and deployment model. We then want to expand the partnership, build the DASB approach to be kind of a nationwide sustainable initiative beyond the funding that we've secured from the HEA. And to do that by growing membership, but also build a strong strategic and business plan for the growth of DASB. So it's led by LIT and myself, and we're currently have a number of team in the development unit and our academic departments contributing, and we're currently recruiting. We have Athlone IT and GMIT. So they're the 3 higher education institutes. And Mark Kelly from GMIT will be speaking after me about some of the initiatives they are taking. And then we have our colleagues in Athlone. So we formed a kind of a shared vision and mission about what we want to achieve. But critically for us also, we have our 2 industry partners. So Tipperary Energy Agency, so one of the leading energy agencies in Ireland, with particular expertise on renovation of buildings and development of renewable energy systems. And then the Irish Green Building Council, who many of you will all be aware of, really kind of a leading network of companies, both working on practice and policy initiatives. So again, they bring the voice of industry into the consortium and as well allow us to communicate outwards into the industry. So we're targeting in particular construction professionals and the craft workers. So we're higher education, so we're looking at programs that are level 6 on the National Framework of Qualifications and higher. And really the construction professionals need and are already involved in continuous CPD, but we need more of that and more types of programs that respond to the critical needs. And ultimately what that brings to the sector is best practice in the design and development of sustainable buildings and sustainable solutions. Our craft workers, so there are our tradespeople and those people that take semi-managerial positions and supervision positions on construction sites and other projects. They need new skills and knowledge to build upon their existing base of industry experience and skills. Again, and we need a range of programs from level 6 upwards for those people. And ultimately what we're trying to achieve there is sustainable employment for those within the changing construction environment. And that is critical so that they're able to respond to new opportunities. And ultimately, we're also then to try and attract new people into the construction sector. So people may be looking at pivoting in or coming back into the construction sector. So we need to show that the programs that we develop and design and that are available are in line with the smart economy, the circular agenda, the digitalization agenda. And ultimately, it's increasing the profile of the construction sector as a worthwhile career, and that we build a supply of high caliber graduates. So without boring you with all of the work package descriptions, etc., we're really built around 4 core blocks of work, supported by our project management, our communications, our evaluation, and our sustainability teams. So the first is around the design, development, and delivery model. So that's where we work with existing quality assurance structures. So higher education bodies have quality assurance and processes and procedures around program development. So we're not going to radically change those, but we want to try and see what are the best parts that we can augment and support to, and particularly by collaboration between the 3 HEAs, see how we can develop new programs in a faster collaborative environment. Having developed programs and then also looking at programs that are outside of our organization, we want to host and direct people to those programs through our DASB platform. So initially it will be developed in a number of phases. The first phase is really as a platform to direct people to resources and training around those 3 themes that we've spoken around: circular economy, energy efficiency, and digitization. And ultimately to become a hosting platform also. The program development activity is ongoing. So having built our framework around the design and development of programs, we are already and have already developed new programs and expanding existing programs. And then all of this would be supported by a range of digital tools. So exploring the areas of virtual reality, augmented reality, living labs, so data sets from existing buildings that can be used by students for research, for demonstration, etc. So it's a 4-year project, commenced late last year. So we're currently, and will run to the end of 2024. So we're currently have scoped out what our D3 framework will look like. And the specification for our DASB platform has been developed, and we hope to launch that by the end of the summer. And as I said, that will be developed over 2 phases. Initially, kind of as a signpost platform, directing people to existing programs where they can access those, but ultimately aiming to become a host for resources. And then our focus is both on expanding existing programs. So rather than reinventing the wheel, we know we have good programs that exist, both small, short training certificate programs up to major awards. So pointing a spotlight at those and increasing participation in those, as well as developing new programs in response to industry needs. And then from early 2022, we'll start to develop our digital tools that would support and could be used in program delivery. And again, we will start early in 2022 to look like what the future might look like. So engaging with other HEIs and with industry SMEs to see about expanding our network and building sustainability, and ultimately building synergies with existing and other emerging initiatives. And here's just some examples of programs that are either in development or have been developed and approved for under the DASB banner. So LIT, we've just recently got approval for a Masters in Sustainable Energy Systems Management. And this is trying to tackle that multi-layer aspect. So the technical, the business, the management components of sustainable energy systems, particularly focusing on integration into buildings. GMIT have an MSc in BIM and digital construction. Athlone have Masters of Engineering in Energy Infrastructure, again approved, due to commence September next year. They also have one on data capture and processing under development. We have one around building retrofitting and the whole management of those systems. And I'm sure Mark will touch on this later on, a master's in the circular economy for sustainable built environment under development in GMIT. So all of them touching on the themes that we spoke about earlier on, and particularly high quality, innovative programs responding to the market and the policy needs. So over the next couple of months, particularly this year, we're again going through the staffing and resourcing. One thing is always getting the money, and then it's getting the people in to deliver the projects. So we're closing out a number of those steps now within LIT in particular. We're also collating existing resources and assets. So there's a lot of resources that have been developed and maybe are sometimes sitting on shelves that need to be made available. So open education resources that have been developed, for example, through R&D projects that need to be available. As I said, we're building the beta version of the platform, and that hopefully will be launched end of the summer of this year. And we are commencing what we've called our horizon scanning process. So that's looking forward over the next 12, 24, 36 months. What are the programs that we need to develop? What is industry telling us? What's the research telling us? And then we will look to develop programs in response to that. And then, as I mentioned, building our suite of digital tools that educators can use in program delivery and development by January 2022. From January 22, sorry. So last slide then, I suppose ultimately we aim for DASB to be a key tool, one of many tools to help the sector transform and respond to kind of the upskilling agenda. We want to basically provide access to upskilling, but also information on upskilling. So DASB can't, in the short term, be the solution to everybody's problem, but there are lots of other upskilling opportunities out there, like the CitA SkillNet, for example, is an example. The Build Digital initiative that's emerging. We want to be able to point to those, but also host resources. I think industry engagement is always key. It's at the core of everything we do in LIT and through the higher education industry. We develop programs with industry, and we want to continue to do that and even do it in a more efficient manner. And ultimately, DASB has to create synergies with initiatives rather than compete. So there are, and we all need to be able to support the sector to upskill, and the only way we can do that effectively is to work together. So thanks very much. I'm sure I'm happy to be able to take questions later on. My contact details are there, and we're on LinkedIn and Twitter. So that's it for me for now. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Seamus. Really interesting, a very large project, and I'm just wondering, I just pop my own question in there, if I just may, to see how do other HEIs, how could other HEIs get involved, because we're all in this sort of together.
Yeah, so I suppose we haven't identified a formal structure for engaging other HEIs since we're just kicked off, but ultimately the digital platform itself will be the easiest way to do that. So if there are existing education programs that have been developed and are available, we want to be able to point to those from the platform. So if LIT, GMIT, or Athlone don't have the solution for you, that solution may exist somewhere else. So to point. So
I'm just thinking here about other projects like Build Digital, the BIM Cert project that the government of Ireland are funding under separate mechanisms, and the EU are funding under separate. So it's getting these all to work together.
Yeah.
So listen, that's really exciting. That, you know, so there's a few comments coming in there, but I think for the purposes of keeping the thing going, and it's great to see such a good turnout today as well. Wishing you every success with the project, Seamus, and no doubt we'll be in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we go forward in the journey.
Happy to talk. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Mark, thank you, Seamus. So, moving on to Mark Kelly. Mark, good afternoon.
Hi, Alan. How are things?
So, Mark will be talking about educating for a circular built environment, in particular, presenting how, I suppose, ongoing applied research collaboration with industry is informing, I suppose, the development of circular economy curricula in training and courses. So, looking forward to hearing your presentation, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Alan. I just might leave my camera off, just if everybody's wondering why it's not on, just because my bandwidth is quite low here. So
that's fine.
Turn it again for questions. So just a bit about myself. I'm based in the Department of Building and Civil Engineering in the Galway Mayo Institute of Technology, and I'm delighted, like Seamus, to be participating in the webinar today. A little bit of my own background, I've sort of been involved in applied research with industry over the past 20 years in the areas of construction, demolition, waste management, resource efficiency, the circular economy, BIM, and digital transitions as well. So just on my cover slide there, you'll see on the right-hand side a photo that's all too common across Ireland, a landmark building that was left to go beyond repair. This is the Cargrade Southern in Galway, which many of you may have known as it greeted all visitors on the way into Galway before the opening of the M6 Galway to Dublin Road. So it was built in 1970 and closed the stores in 2007, and then hasn't reopened in any form since. And as you see, it's now derelict and is due to be demolished in the near future. So this provides a little bit of context for my presentation, where I will look at what role higher education can play in preventing this from happening by, looking at a transition towards a circular built environment. And I suppose it'd be remiss of me not to mention, our experiences over the past 12 months. It's important for us to reflect on some of the many lessons we've learned, I think, over the past 12 months. And in the context of this presentation, our increasing hyper awareness of our local environment, and more especially the built environment that's contained within, and maybe some of the limitations or advantages of the built environments that we're currently living in. So again, to set some context, the recent Irish Times survey has identified some interesting trends emerging from the past 12 months that you can see on the slide there. From a sustainability point of view, there's been some positive signs which have emerged, especially in relation to food waste and the recognition of local businesses and the need to support local businesses, which you may have expected to some extent. But as what has been, really interesting to me anyways, has been the emergence of the whole area of the worry or concern fatigue, which is having an effect on other issues, such as people's concern for the environment and how this may impact behavior. So we really need to think about this in the context of, the constant call for transformation, the constant call of change within our working lives as well. So this was identified as a finite capacity for worry, and this highlights some of the challenges. As a lot of people, both in their personal and working lives, would just like life to go back to normal or something close to normal, but obviously some improvements in relation to work-life balance and so on. But if we're constantly in a transformation or change cycle within industry, that can create fatigue as well. So today I'm going to talk about some ways that we can build on existing good work and maybe evolve what we're doing already that's really good into a framework for a transition to a circular economy. We can also see that placing the responsibility solely at the feet of an individual can lead to some improvements, but not at the scale required for transformation to occur. So these considerations bring me to the contested concept of the circular economy and how it may apply to the built environment. As with most ideas, the circular economy has evolved over time from previous iterations, as you can see there, which all call for change to the dominant and linear approach to a take, make, and dispose strategy. However, a lot of these concepts or ideas may not be overly familiar to the construction supply chain, so we need to ask ourselves, where do we start with the circular economy? And one of our main starting points on all the research projects that we've been involved with in industry is to focus on one thing which is the most visible on any construction project, namely waste. Because everybody understands on-site understands waste as it's tangible in terms of visibility, but also in terms of cost. But the true costs may not be fully appreciated. So as part of our ongoing research, we always start with calculating the true cost of waste, which includes the original purchase cost of the materials, potential loss of revenue from recycling, and the final disposal cost. And this does not even begin to address the environmental costs or footprint of waste, which can be huge if you include transport, processing, and the impact of having a lack of market infrastructure in Ireland, leading to an actual export of recycled materials. It also doesn't include the embodied value of each material in its original stage when purchased. But by providing a simple visualization of the true cost of waste, we're hoping to stimulate a more preventative mindset, which is one of the main principles of the circular built environment. And in the example you see there is a simple visualization that we've used on a number of projects where we identify simply the purchase costs of all the materials being wasted into different skip types. So for a long time, the construction sector has thought of recycling as best practice, but we now need to move away from this to look towards approach for designing out waste and reuse are the default strategies. But this will require earlier interventions from the planning authority, client, and design team, and intensive collaboration across the whole value chain. So to simplify the circular economy concept as it applies to the built environment, we need to think about two things, and that's value and utility. When we pause to think about all the natural resources and human capital that go into a building, we then hopefully begin to form a vision or a mental picture of the embodied value contained within each layer of a building. Again, this is not a new concept. We have fantastic examples of conservation and refurbishment projects in Ireland that demonstrate best practice across the whole supply chain. But what we need is a more structured and coherent approach across the whole built environment. So where does higher education come in? And to follow on from Seamus's presentation in relation to the DASB project, this is something we've been thinking about obviously for a number of years. And in GMIT, we use a reciprocal learning framework that aims to exploit the synergies between industry best practice, applied research, and curriculum development to create a dynamic learning environment for both students and staff. Ongoing industry, academic, and industry collaboration is at the core of this framework to ensure that graduates will have the necessary competencies to contribute to and lead and continuously improving built environment sector. So some examples of how this actually works in practice. On this slide here, I'm highlighting some ongoing applied research by the Build 360 Research Group in GMIT and 2 funded EPA projects, which are exploring opportunities to embed circular economy principles across the value chain in collaboration with the Southern West region and Limerick 2030 and a local construction SME Kerry building contractors. These 2 examples illustrate different perspectives and scales, with the Limerick 2030 Opera Development Project offering a client perspective on a €180 million development, and the collaboration with Kerry building contractors offering an SME perspective on a range of projects under €5 million. It is clear that significantly more opportunities exist to embed circularity as a core principle if you are the client rather than an SME, which can elicit more of a reactionary response, primarily in response to waste management requirements. Despite this limitation for SMEs, though, we are currently exploring ways to embed circularity under a Site Zero Cube concept, which expands on the zero accidents, health and safety policy on site to include zero waste and zero emissions. From a client perspective, the role of procurement and tendering in generating awareness and catalyzing action in relation to circularity can be seen as a relatively easy first step. For example, having a requirement for a detailed pre-demolition or pre-refurbishment audit that will require prioritized prevention, reuse, and recycling in that order. And on the slide there, you can see a list of initiatives that we've been involved in. And as you can see, a lot of the engagement with the Limerick 2030 team on the Opera Site Development Project has been to review specifications, make recommendations, and move through each of the phases to have a consistent procurement and tendering approach, which is embedding resource management best practice and also including circularity principles. So how does this applied research then inform course development? So one example is a course we're currently developing with the Southern Waste Region, which will target local authority staff. The course is funded by the EPA and will aim to provide training on how to implement construction demolition waste and resource management best practice from the perspective of a local authority, both as a planning authority and as a client. So we piloted the course in May and June with a full rollout in September across the local authority sector. So reflecting back on the programs that were outlined by Seamus in relation to the DASRI project, many of those projects were at level 8 and level 9 at the moment. And I know there's a range of courses already existing from level 6 upwards in higher education. But we also have to think of our role as a training and CPD provision as well. And for instance, this isn't at the moment allocated any designation around level 7, level 8, or level 9. And when we did a survey of local authority staff, what they required was professional CPD points. So we're investigating that at the moment to have aligned CPD points with the courses. So not all courses have to be a truly academic course to upskill and provide training that the industry needs. Second example was mentioned by Seamus, and this is the development of an MSc in circular economy leadership for sustainable built environments. So we've added in the word leadership because we really think that we need leadership in this area. This received funding under the Human Capital Initiative and is due to commence in September 2021 as well. And we've been working with a core industry working group who have been providing great insights into the course design and development process so far. So the course itself will consist of an embedded postgraduate diploma consisting of 3 mandatory modules as outlined on the slide in year 1, focusing on circular economy principles, circular economy leadership and organizational transitions, and an applied work-based research project. All of those will be covered in year 1 with the completion of a minor thesis in year 2 to fully complete the MSc. It will be a full-time course fully facilitated online for the foreseeable future until we eventually enter a post-COVID world. The good news is that the HCI funding covers 90% of the fees for the postgraduate diploma part, which will mean a cost of just €600. We also have HCI funding for year 2, but not to the same extent. So we're currently negotiating what field that will be in the next couple of weeks. The program itself is currently going through the quality validation process, and we hope to be able to advertise and open it up for applications in June. So you see there that both courses are at different scales of engagement, but with a common aim, which are to catalyze action and lead to transition towards a circular built environment. Of course, ongoing education more generally does not need to be structured, as I mentioned, into a program or a course. So I've highlighted some educational resources here that developed. A series of fact sheets developed by Resource Futures in Scotland for the Southern Waste Region, which provide a series of introductory fact sheets for different stakeholder groups, and it's available on the link there on the slide. Some excellent resources such as the recent 6-week Irish Green Building Council Building Circularity series, the ongoing Architects for Climate Action Network UK Circular series, which is focusing on the different design phases, and of course the webinar series you're currently attending, which will continue on a monthly basis all the way to December of this year. So all of these resources are looking at different stakeholder groups into different phases to try and encourage early intervention around circularity, if at all possible. Also, I'd like to highlight a series of case studies and action sheets that we developed in collaboration with Kerry Building Contractors and BAM on a previous EPA project that aims to inform good resource efficiency practice on site. So this was the precursor, I suppose, to us moving into the circular economy space, where we looked at reducing energy, waste, and water use on sites. And so over the course of 11 case studies, we identified that there were significant opportunities to become more resource efficient without, with low difficulty and low cost. So in conclusion, the transition towards a circular built environment will need leadership and a willingness to take action, as Seamus has already outlined. This will require life cycle and systems thinking and a real appreciation of value within the built environment. The good news, as I said before, is that there are excellent examples of really great work going on across the supply chain. And that could be a catalyst to further this transition in a more coherent manner. And we really need clients, planning authorities, the public sector as a client, to start leading. There's evidence that is happening already, which is fantastic. But if we have a more coherent approach to it, it will drive the whole change across the sector. So I'll leave you with a question. What role can you play in your current employment in transitioning towards a circular built environment? If you have any questions in relation to the courses I've outlined or ongoing research in geography, please do not hesitate to contact me at the email provided on the slide. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark. Could I just ask you to go back 2 or 3 slides? There was one slide there where I saw the term quantity surveyor. Just as a quantity surveyor, I'd be interested. This southern region resources, is that right?
So the southern waste region, yeah, we developed a series of beginner checklists around to introduce this concept. And so when you're looking at quantity surveyors, a lot of the things around there is around obviously procurement, tendering, having it in as a requirement.
Okay.
Tendering for a job. So, the idea was for a quantity surveyor, you don't really need to read the other fact sheets. You just go to that fact sheets, that one that's specific to yourself. Similarly, if you're a designer, you go to one that's specific to your designer. So they're just a nice, short couple of slides or couple of fact sheets.
I think it'd be good to circulate them, excuse the pun, but, to make them available to people.
Yeah, so we can put the link. I can put the link in the chat.
Please do, yeah. I'd be interested to know just generally, do our graduates today have the requisite skills to think in this fashion and to think about circular economy? I mean, I know as an educator, I don't think our students have the skills necessarily. I'm not sure what other people think. Or Mark, are you embedding this into undergraduate curricula?
Yeah. So for the last 3 years, I suppose we've embedded it into our final year, say construction management and quantity surveying courses, especially the architectural courses have also looked at circularity. So it is filtering in. I suppose what we need is we probably need a framework, a national framework across to combine all of this, be it circularity, be it digital, be it whatever, so that we can sort of have a consistent approach across all of higher education. Because there's, Joseph may outline some of his examples in a few minutes. Yeah. There's fantastic examples going on in a sort of an ad hoc manner.
Yes.
Higher education. But I'm saying we need a more coherent approach to it.
Well, thanks very much, Mark. You did a great job in giving us that overview. And you mentioned Joseph, our final speaker. So, and if you could share those links actually in the chat, it'd be great, because I think a lot of people, there's a number of questions coming in, so we should have quite a healthy Q&A session. Joseph, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Alan. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So circularity is nearer than you think.
We think so. I think the message there is that it's challenging. It's quite different. But actually, there are activities going on in Ireland. They should be celebrated. They should be known about, and they can be built upon.
Yeah, and I know your joint speaker Patrick is not able to be with us this afternoon, but he's here in a digital fashion.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I might ask you to introduce and then and bring it forward. Thanks very much.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, Alan. So as it happens, I'm a colleague of Alan in a number of ways in TU Dublin, and I was a previous member of the Small Companies Forum, I think, in CitA many years ago. I'm also here as assistant head of school in the Dublin School of Architecture in Technological University Dublin, and also the program chair of the Building Performance Masters. So the MSc in Building Performance brackets energy efficiency and design. So one of the things that my team are very interested in doing is to get real about this whole business of circularity and environmental design, and indeed prior to that, super low energy buildings, renovations, and so on. So it's a really challenging area, and I'm very much focused on the building design professionals. Seamus was highlighting the wider group of people, and even Mark there, the wider part of industry that really needs to engage in so much that's going on. And I was really struck by Mark's comment about people's stress levels and their ability to engage with this. So that's something I think really that's come to the fore as well, and mental health and people's capacity and courage and enthusiasm for a subject, and also structuring it and breaking it down so that they can engage with it. I think all those things, those social and cultural and things, are going to become so important in the next few years. So we're very interested in the Building Performance Masters, and focusing on those, the architects, the architectural technologists, the structural and civil engineers, the quantity surveyors, the building surveyors, that whole building engineers, that whole group. And we provide a support for them, which I'll be describing in the second part of this talk. The first part, I have Patrick, who as Alan said, can't be with us. He's giving us a video presentation that was actually prepared in February. So it's very slightly out of date, I know, but you wouldn't know that. I think it's all very relevant today. And it's to do with the Drive Zero project. So Drive Zero as in circularity and zero energy, all those things, .eu. So drivezero.eu, you can find that on the websites. And we very intentionally got involved in that project because it focuses on super low energy renovation, it focuses on circularity, it focuses on offsite manufacturing, it focuses on digital, and it also focuses on consumer sentiment. So actually encouraging the market, whether that's the landlords or a local authority in this case, but then also the actual occupants or homeowners, to engage in this space and to feel supported, and so on. So I'm going to start with the Drive Zero piece. It's about 8 minutes of Patrick speaking, and then I'll go to my live presentation after that. And hopefully between the two, you'll find that they're really interesting. And I think it's industry informed research and practice informed research is so terribly important to where we need to go in this next phase. So I'm going to share screen. Whoops. Actually, I will turn my camera off, and let's see if this goes swimmingly. So share that, and I'm going to play it. So can you see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Can you hear it?
Yes, we can. Well, we can't hear it just yet. Is it running yet? Okay,
sorry. Okay, I did the one thing I was told not to do. I have shared screen without. How do I go back? I've shared screen without.
So you need to unshare the screen.
Yeah. I'm not used to Zoom. I'm used to Teams.
That's okay.
Darn. Where do I go? There. Okay. Yeah. Stop share. Fine. Thanks, Seamus. There's that little moment. They hide that little button away.
Don't worry, it doesn't take from the quality. Yeah.
Here you go.
Hello and welcome to this presentation on the Drive Zero Irish demonstration project. My name is Patrick Daly. I'm the principal investigator on the project in the Dublin School of Architecture, TU Dublin. Drive Zero is a Horizon 2020 funded project on driving decarbonisation of the EU building stock by enhancing a consumer-centred and locally based circular renovation process. And in this presentation, I'm going to give you an overview of the Irish demonstrator case. So as a high-level overview, Drive Zero incorporates the following aspects. Firstly, it's seeking to advance deep energy retrofit in the EU building stock. Secondly, it's proposing to promote that through industrial-scale off-site modularised manufacturing. Thirdly, it's proposing to implement that on the principles of circularity in buildings and construction. And lastly, it's seeking to develop a user-centric approach and alternative business models. The Drive Zero concept is based on developing circular, deep renovation solutions and supporting consumer-centric business models for 7 specific study and demonstration cases as real environments. The project is a demonstration project seeking to promote circular, modularised deep renovation. And at the heart of that is the development of modularised circular construction and system elements, both two-dimensional, in the plane, wall, roof, floor, etc., and also three-dimensional add-ons, extensions, or pods. A key and innovative part of the project is the centrality of circularity in the design and realization of the retrofit projects, both on a technical cycle and also on a biological cycle. A key challenge, therefore, of the project is the development, design, and realization of three-dimensional and two-dimensional deep retrofit components that are designed on the concept of circularity. The project's definition and scope of circularity includes both energy and materials, where a theoretical 100% circular process will be based on 100% renewable energy input into that process and all stages and cycling, in infinite material cycling or relooping, and lowest quality loss possible within the circularization. Some key strategies proposed within the Drive Zero project in relation to circularity are, firstly, number one, the mining of existing materials and resources from the construction or other sectors for potential reuse within the retrofit demonstrator, or a bio-based circularity where bio-based materials or bioengineered materials are utilized within the demonstrator. And of course, the demonstrator itself would need to be circular, allowing the application and the disassembly of materials, components, and elements for reuse or application elsewhere. The project is divided into 7 work packages. Work package 1 being management and coordination. Work package 2, which is a current focus, circular technology and concept development. Work package 3, circular process and production development. Work package 4, performance monitoring and user information. Work package 5, consumer-centered business models and financing. Work package 6, smart impact measuring and feedback from demonstration. Work package 7, communication, dissemination and training. We are now 1 year into the project, with all work packages commenced. The key current focus is on concept development and also on circular process and production development. The Irish project partners and team are made up as follows. The project partners include TU Dublin, Dublin School of Architecture as the academic partner and principal investigator. Coady Architects are working as the industry liaison and design partner. We're working in partnership with Vision Build as the modularised manufacturer and Westmeath County Council as the building owner. And we have in place, overseeing the project and providing input, a national advisory board made up of key stakeholders. The demonstration project will be taking place here in County Westmeath in partnership with Westmeath County Council, who have shortlisted a range of potential properties that are in need of retrofit and upon which design development is taking place. Vision Build, who are owned by CISC, are an off-site manufacturer specialising in light gauge steel, structural, wall, roof and floor elements. They've been engaged into the project to develop, supply, deliver and install enhanced circularised wall, roof, floor and complete volumetric components. So we are now currently working with Vision Build CISC to assess their current construction offering and propose a transition to a circularised, modularised solution. The Irish project has contributed to one of the first deliverables within the project so far. That's Deliverable 6.1, benchmarking on circularity on the demonstration sites. This deliverable includes a review of assessment methods and concepts. It includes an initial assessment on circularity of the case studies based on the existing pre-retrofitted dwellings. And it raised a number of issues and challenges in relation to circularity assessment, notably issues around definition and scope of circularity, the diverse range of indicators being used, the complexity of assessing design for disassembly, the diversity and lack of data sources, and the ability, therefore, to cross-compare. Detailed monitoring action plans have been developed for both hard and soft monitoring. For hard monitoring, there's proposals for detailed pre- and post-intervention monitoring, including energy, comfort, air quality, etc. And for soft monitoring, there's engagement with the owners and the users both before and after interventions being proposed. The project is now focusing on concept design development, not only looking at two-dimensional fabric upgrade of wall and roof, but also looking at three-dimensional volumetric add-ons that may be suitable for the Irish house typology. Explorative studies are being undertaken on the 2D wall and roof elements to propose alternative circularized constructions and utilizing bio-based materials. The project is developing within the context of COVID-19, and proposals for the demonstration case are being adapted and amended to suit the changing situation, where we've seen the front of housing to be used for social interactions and safe visiting, etc. In that context, the PI has proposed the concept of a COVID shelter, seen here, which would facilitate a safe and sheltered visiting and connection space to facilitate social interactions and visiting. So we're only year one into a 4-year project, and we hope to have further information and results from you as the project progresses. You can get further information on the project from the www.drivezero.eu website, or from me, Patrick Daly at tudublin.ie. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. Hello and welcome to this presentation on
That's great, Joseph.
Hello, Alan.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I'll continue on.
Yes.
So the second part of the presentation, focusing more on the educational side. So we are the program, the circularity module that I want to talk to you about today. It's in the third semester, in the middle of the third semester, and it's called Circularity and Life Cycle Assessment in the Built Environment. And I think while it's terribly important, we need to educate in every which way we can, and every which group, as Seamus and Mark were saying. But it's also important that we often educate, particularly building design professionals, who are engaged with a design exercise and a rigorous exercise that must be compliant and to regulation, which must have a kind of a discipline and a structure to it, that can happen within a larger design exercise. And bear in mind, while circularity is very new to the plate, there are examples that actually are decades old, I'll show later on. But the engagement with building energy modeling, the engagement with super low energy design, NZEB, with moisture risk assessment, where moisture risk causes 80% of failures in buildings, with the complexity of engaging with those things in a design project, all of those things are needed too. And in the building performance, sorry, let me turn that.
Yeah, do you need to share a screen? Yeah.
Am I not sharing a screen?
No, you're still sharing Patrick's screen.
Okay. I thought I was sharing a screen. Okay, I'm not doing well today.
So you need to. No, you're doing fine. So you need to unshare that and then reshare.
Okay, new share, fine, and it's this. So share that.
That's good.
Yeah, there we go. So here we are. So what I wanted to show you there was we're teaching within a context. We're teaching circularity within a context, and that context itself is incredibly important. So it's the MSc in Building Performance. It takes place over 3 years or 6 semesters. It's a nested program. So you've got the postgraduate certificate in the year 1 leading on to the first 2 years are then the postgraduate diploma, and the full thing is the MSc. So you could refer to it as a nested master's. There we go, great. So it's been designed to enable fully employed building design professionals from all over the country develop significant technical skills and knowledge in energy efficiency and environmental design for new and renovation building projects, using a variety of digital modeling and environmental design software applications. In the last 3 years, we've been successful in securing Springboard funding to provide a 90% fee subsidy to the students studying in year 1. And we know the greatest cost is their time input. So in many of the weeks, it's about a 20-hour input. But by providing that online and by providing a range of other elements to enhance the flexibility for those learners, accepting that they have busy lives, that they're they might be married with kids, they've deadlines, they've all sorts of things. By providing that in an online space before COVID-19, we were very clear on how revolutionary that can be and how facilitating that can be of people engaging in serious online learning. We provide a number of supports to do that. You can see the bottom left hand are some pie charts representing the range of building design professionals who've engaged with us. You can see in the top left there the website, the intranet site, so it's behind the firewall for students engaging with the various resources across the program, including social media space, which you can see in the middle image there, showing the 4 different social media spaces of the CPD and NZ Policy and Technologies, alongside the social media spaces for years 1, 2, and 3. You can see some happy graduates, and you can see a webinar going on live with chat and engagement, where they're getting feedback on their learning. Sorry, I keep getting this thing appearing. If I move on, just very quickly, you can see there's building energy modeling being taught in year 1, whether that's DEEP or PHPP, and in year 2, whether that's dynamic simulation to assist NEEP. So DEEP in year 1, NEEP in year 2. You can see that we have particular skills and knowledge being taught to support zero energy or super low energy buildings, both deep renovations and new builds, whether that's thermal modeling, whether that's hydrothermal risk, whether that's building energy modeling or NZ policy technology simulation, and so on, to guard against things like overheating, ensuring good quality daylight, thermal comfort, all those important things. That we teach simulation in different ways at different times as well. So there's calculation, there's simulation, it's transient and dynamic. And then there's integrated technical design projects in years 1, 2, and of course the thesis project in year 3 to integrate that knowledge. Because in every case where you teach something in an isolated way and you don't test it, it's the learning is not deep, the learning is not real, typically, and it's not retained. Where when you learn it and test it within each module, as we do, provide feedback within each module, and then give people a chance to apply a range of those new skills and knowledge with their existing knowledge and skills into projects, integrated design projects, you begin to get really deep learning and transformation. There's also some of the modules available as CPDs. And the ones I want to focus on just briefly now are to do with environment and circularity. So those 2 modules, 9201, Building Environmental Assessment Methods, and Circularity and Life Cycle Assessment, are taught at the beginning of year 2, semester 3, or semester 1 of year 2. The first of those is taught in the normal mode in our program of 4 weeks of learning. So 3 hours of video lectures each week with formative exercises that are then challenged and tested through webinar, the social media engagement, and a project for 2 weeks at the end of that. And then the second module, we're teaching in a slightly different way in 3 2-week chunks. The first of those engaging with circularity, particularly circularity for design, then life cycle assessment, which obviously gives you a strong sense of the environmental impacts of those materials that you're choosing, and then life cycle cost analysis, looking at the future payback and all of those exercises. So really significant skills, but brought together as a wider exploration of circularity. The learning outcomes, I'm not going to read them all out, but they address key concepts in circularity. They help the designer discern a range of ways in which they can positively impact upon resource flows, because circularity is very much about resource flows, and building designing for circularity is very much about that moment in time when those resources are coming to the building and how we engage with those to ensure they can be used repeatedly, reused as opposed to recycled or certainly wasted and so on in years to come. But then even how designers can impact upon the resource flows up channel from them, because where designers request more circular products to be manufactured, to be supplied to them, it has a much bigger impact than they typically recognize. There's also differentiation between the different tools. There's using those tools. We tend to teach one-click LCA as our life cycle assessment tool, and then looking at cost optimality of fabric interventions and so on. So the team in the second module, 9205, there is Patrick Daly and myself in the first 2 weeks, then Sarah O'Dwyer teaching life cycle assessment and Daniel Coyle teaching life cycle cost analysis. So it's a mature team. In the first part of the 2 weeks that Patrick and I teach, we focus on the concepts of what is circularity, what is it in general, what is it in the built environment, what is it within buildings, how do we actually design for it, design for higher use of biological materials, designing for disassembly, etc., and then actually obviously measuring it. And in the second week, we actually get the students to look, we provide insights into specific manufacturers in Ireland at the moment who are providing materials that are significantly circular or promote, enhance circularity in design, and then we give them a small design exercise. So it's a quick engagement, but we're not aware of that happening in too many other places at the moment. And I think with the support from year one and then the environmental engagement with the previous module, I think what we're finding, we ran it for the first time this year in October, we found the students really grappling with this. It isn't an easy thing to engage with circularity for design. It's challenging, but it's also very exciting. We've already seen from Patrick and Seamus and Mark about the biological and the technical cycles. And we can see the lovely, pleasing graphics where everything cascades back to the center and this lovely ring occurs. To actually make that happen requires a root and branch rethinking of how we teach design, how we use materials, how we joint materials, and what kind of materials those are. So it's a really specific, at this part of the process of the flow, when we're looking at technical building design for circularity, it's a really interesting, exciting, and very, very new technical engagement. How do you joint those materials together? How, for instance, we're looking at a door, a traditional door, let's say on the right-hand side, the particular choices that we make, which might have been chosen historically for strength or robustness or ease of manufacture or ease of bonding or fixing, could also be things that, or will be things that have an impact on how they actually can be disassembled, reused, and therefore future life cycles. So all of those kind of things need to actually be taken into account at even the basic level, most basic level, when we design those buildings. We can say it's a very new thing, but in fact, if we look at Sasha Mashtik back in 1966, his K67 kiosk, which is apparently ubiquitous throughout the old Yugoslavia, had exactly those kind of principles involved. And actually, the unit you're seeing there was many, many variants of it. So there's ways of doing this which are fun, which are creative, which are actually well established. But they're not normal, and they do need to be thought about, and it does need training. So moving on very briefly, this is, I think, my second or third last slide. We went to a number of manufacturers in Ireland to say, well, actually, what are you doing, your manufacturers and importers, what are you doing with these materials? And how many biological materials are you importing that we can use that enhance circularity? Or how many materials are you manufacturing or importing that are waste materials, or even materials, again, that can enhance the design for circularity? So you could talk about 3 different types of products. And we found manufacturers and suppliers in Ireland in all 3 of those categories. And some of them have done really, remarkable work. One of the key questions, and the one that excites me, is how do you establish that a waste material, what was a waste material, is actually now a product, a product under technical guidance document D, for instance. And that's through the concept of end of waste, which was established in the European Waste Framework Directive. Sorry, I'll just turn that off again. It's been adopted into domestic law through Article 28 of the European Communities Waste Directive Regulations, 2011. And end of waste gives waste holders the opportunity to demonstrate with an appropriate level of rigor that a waste material can be fully recovered and no longer be defined as a waste, that the waste can be used as a secondary resource in place of and fulfilling the same role as a non-waste derived or virgin primary resource, that new innovations can transform waste into a valuable resource, and that the fully recovered material can be used without causing overall adverse impacts to the environment of human health. So there's actually a regulatory structure there for manufacturers and waste holders to engage with, to make that magical moment, transformational moment, where the waste material can now be considered actually a product, and in many cases a high quality premium product. We talked to a range of manufacturers. I think there's a sixth, maybe, and a seventh that aren't on this list at the moment, but Ecocell was one of them, which probably is the best known product in Ireland that has been supplying a circular, really innovative, important circular product into the Irish market for decades, and probably needs to be better supported, maybe sometimes than it is. It's a fantastic quality product. It's made in Cork using pretty much Cork newspapers. The Cork Examiner or the Irish Examiner goes into an awful lot of the Ecocell installations supplied throughout Ireland. Ecological building systems since the year 2000 have been supplying a whole range of materials around the whole space of moisture management, low energy buildings, and circular materials. And Bosic Phonotherm is a good example of that. It's made entirely from upcycled polyurethane and has a range of really interesting benefits. AM Acoustic Materials is a company that's currently importing acoustic and structural boards made from Tetra Pak waste from Czechia or the Czech Republic. Their ambition is to import the manufacturing equipment as soon as they can, and I believe that might be within a year, so that they can actually manufacture from Tetra Pak waste and other waste sources such as straw or hemp fibers or others, very, very high quality products. And the AM acoustic board that they supply is considered a premium product in the market. And I think what's really lovely is that the actual coating, the kind of polyurethane type coating on the normal Tetra Pak that you have in your fridge holding orange juice or milk or whatever, that actual membrane, that material under heat actually acts as an adhesive or as a bonding agent in creation of the new board. So in fact, a really key component of making a strong structural board with significant characteristics is actually provided in the waste material itself, which I think is really beautiful. OVO are a company, I think, up north that provide fixing systems that really facilitate demountability of furniture, particularly, and household fittings or building fittings. And then Integrated Material Solutions are a terribly exciting company based in, I think, North Dublin, who are the first people to provide certified aggregate from construction waste. So again, we've interviewed all these people. We have interviews available to the students in the course. I would like to make them more widely available. They need a little bit extra polish, I think, before I do that. But for instance, IMS were describing to us how they actually helped the NSAI and EPA Ireland engaging with Integrated Material Solutions to be able to certify the aggregate that they provide. Actually gave NSAI and EPA Ireland the experience necessary to be able to then certify similar waste products from other waste streams. So we're at that early stage where you can't even say, or you couldn't even say before they did that work, that those organizations, which are the relevant, necessary Irish organizations, actually had the experience of going through the process with a manufacturer or supplier. So this world of circularity is literally being put together. The mechanisms and structures in Ireland are being put together. The thinking is there, much of the knowledge is there, but actually the experience on the ground and the actual range of manufacturers and suppliers to the industry is only beginning to be put together now. And projects like Drive Zero, where we're talking to Vision Built and CISC and talking to companies like Integrated Material Solutions, you begin to see that this is happening, and we as designing professionals really need to support that. So if I go on here, almost finished. So these were, I think I showed that. These were the questions that we were asking them. And that question again about convincing specifiers and client bodies to use your products, is the interest level increasing? And I think of 6 companies, all of them came back and said, yes, there's significant increased level of interest in their products, and they're beginning to see an increased market for them. And it's been a very long time in some cases for them to be able to say that. Ecocell's been in the market for decades at this stage, for instance. But one interesting thing in the context of IMS, or Integrated Material Solutions, which I think you'll find an interesting story, is they were saying that they're selling into a market in Ireland where quarries, virgin quarries, are still, virgin land is still being opened up to quarry fresh material, virgin material, and to supply to Ireland. There's something like 600 quarries in action in Ireland at the moment. I think that figure is correct, 600, which is extraordinary. And apparently, if you fly over parts of Meath, you'll find a small quarry at the bottom of almost every farm. However, Holland doesn't have even one quarry open, and the UK has a very limited number. And the result of that is that in those countries, the value of the waste material to turn into that certified product is much, much higher. And the business model that IMS is pursuing is a model that actually suits countries where the value of what they're producing, the high quality product they're producing, is much better respected. And actually, the final thing I'd say is my brother, here's a little story from Laois. My brother contacted me recently saying that there was a landowner who's accumulated several hectares, maybe hundreds of hectares, I'm not sure, of land behind his site, his house in near Salons, and wants to use it to create a new quarry, and was presenting in their planning application that this was an environmental thing to do because the quarrying was done locally and the buildings would be built locally, and wasn't it all good, and let us do it, and housing's important, and so on and so forth. And you could see the pressure and the lobbying going on to support all that. I was able to go back to my brother and describe, because I'd only come to understand what integrated material solutions were doing, and the importance of us actually putting a premium on waste materials, and actually suppressing a market for new quarries in order to transform our industry. And actually, it had a big impact on one of the councillors, who then took that up and ran with it as one of her arguments in that discussion about that particular planning application. So literally there again, you can see, unless we know about products like the greenstone that integrated material solutions have, unless we know that companies like Ecological and EcoCell and OVO and integrated material solutions are doing these things, we as designers might think, oh no, you can only get that in Holland, you can only get that in Germany, that doesn't happen here, sure, what can you change? And that's not the right message, and it doesn't need to be the message anymore. So there you are. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joseph. Great, and to Patrick's contribution as well. It was great. So a lot of comments coming in on the chat. What I might do is just pick one or two from that, and also ask our speakers maybe to join us with their cameras on. First few questions are surrounding DASBE. So I might direct those at you, Seamus. Antoinette, you're very welcome. Antoinette, I suppose is building on what the question I asked. There are many existing programs nationally at level 6 to 8. What opportunities exist for those institutes and providers to get involved in the project agenda?
So I mean,
it's just building on that.
Initially, as mentioned earlier, like we will be signposting people to those programs that exist already as much as possible. So the likes of Joseph's programs, with other ones down to level 6 and upwards, and also signposting to those that are outside of the HEA. So the skills net that you mentioned, Alan, and other programs that are available, because as Mark touched upon, there's a whole education and training agenda, from bite-sized CPD activity to micro-credential programs up to the major awards and everything in between. So it's not a one-size-fits-all agenda.
Yeah.
So the first point is that the platform will point to existing resources. And then as we develop, I mean, we're, I suppose, building the foundations of DASBE at the moment with our existing partnerships. And then we will seek to add other partners into the project as we go forward. But that will be certainly into 2022 before that starts to happen.
And of course, I think Mark mentioned the post-COVID world that we're all waiting for. But whilst we can go online and adapt to that quite easily, regional institutes of technology and technological universities and traditional universities, serve their region as well. So, Antoinette, does that cover your question, Antoinette? Are you still with us? Okay, so we'll move on. Eleanor, I think Eleanor is from, Limerick IT? Eleanor, she'd like to know a little bit more about DASBE and the industry engagement, how it's organized, the nature of construction industry, where the lowest tender or one-off projects often means contractors don't have the time to engage consistently on a strategic basis with HEIs. The future workforce is an immediate problem within the industry, and HEI needs to attract more students. Would you have a comment about that? I mean, I suppose, how do you attract industry to get involved in this project? And indeed, Joseph might come in there as well with his Drive Zero project as well,
Yeah, I mean, I think I think all of LIT, GMIT, and TU Dublin are all engaged with industry at multiple levels.
Yes.
I would certainly say over the last number of years, the level of engagement and requests from industry is ramping up because they want and need to respond. They see the market need, they see the competition in the market. I absolutely agree with Eleanor's point that in some cases we can over consult and over engage, and industry are busy doing their day jobs. They get up at 9 o'clock in the morning worried about profit and loss and balance sheets, not about our pedagogical approaches to teaching. And one of the things that we're aiming to do in DASB is to actually be a bit more coordinated in how we engage. So, for example, we're starting a programmatic review process in LIT and also in Athlone. We're not going to go out with DASB asking the same questions that are going to be asked through a programmatic review process, that are going to be asked by EGSFN, that are going to be asked by different people. So let's try and use the data and information that's there and build on the networks that we have to ask the questions once and use that data and information for multiple benefits.
Very good. Stephen Howland had a question. Is there sufficient places in education for current students and future students and current workers in the workforce to take up this education? Are there enough lecturers in the colleges with the expertise going forward?
Well, I'd say on the last one, there's a skills deficit across the sector, and that includes in educators and trainers. Like we are running a certificate in training in NZEB for people who teach construction workers and craftspeople, because in fairness to the trainers, they've come through a system where they don't know about NZEB and the regulations, so they need to upskill themselves so that they can train. I think there are a lot of really good people that have come from industry into the higher education space across a whole range of areas. You see Mark's expertise, the expertise that Joseph spoke about. I think, DASB and all the higher education institutes struggle capacity-wise all these times. Blended and online will deliver efficiencies and opportunities outside of the four walls. But I think, we're always fighting for capacity and expertise to bring it into it and grow our teams. That's always been the case. It's probably not going to change. But I think there's some really good people there.
Yeah, Joseph, thank you very much, Seamus. Joseph, do you want to come in there, and Mark?
Yeah, I think the COVID crisis has been probably transformative in that. I mean, our program was an early adapter of online, because we had a previous program that was designed for unemployed building design professionals attending in Linen Hall in Bolton Street 1 day a week. And as soon as the economy recovered, they all disappeared and we had to close the program. So we had the hard learn at that stage, but obviously people have had the hard learn with COVID more recently in the move online. And I think we're not even aware of the depth of transformation that's going to occur there and how much that facilitates online learning across the country. But I would also say that there's, we take in as many as 48 people in first year, and the Springboard facilitates that. But beyond 48 people, I mean, that's a big, big class. If you're giving, significant feedback, if everyone's project has their own, properly graded, properly supported, if they all feel that they're on a learning journey that's, that is real and integrated. So we do need, I know Stephen's one of our students and one of our best students. If every person, building design professional or building professional, tradesperson, etc., in the industry wanted to get upskilled tomorrow, there's not a chance that we wouldn't have the capacity right now. But it, because it would be so unusual for that to happen in one go. But there is significant ramping up going on. And I think, you know, COVID is going to, I think the message of online is going to support that really well. And I think you're going to see an awful lot more programs being made available that can assist that journey, you know.
Very good. And of course, there was a general comment in the chat, thank you, Joseph, about you know, the availability of the modules as isolated modules, you know, 5-10 credit modules, so that contractors can dip into select a module, maybe not even from an academic perspective, but from a pure CPD perspective.
I mean,
it's available.
It's worth bearing in mind 5 ECTS, or, you know, which is like the Euros of education. That means 100 learning hours.
Yes.
So a lot of people, let's say a contractor you mentioned, might actually want 25 or 50 learning hours. They mightn't want 100 learning hours. So there is an issue of, you know, there is a big need.
They might want 1 learning hour.
They might want, well, then you're down to kind of CPD update type engagement, which is counted per hour. So there's definitely a need for kind of micro-credentializing. There's definitely a need for a whole range of different types of offerings. But for the deeper learning, you know, 5 ECTS is the very, very bottom line. It's the very beginning of deeper learning. And people need to be aware, you know, you're kind of getting what you paid for. If you're asking for something that's super quick and very colorful and really interesting, and it's finished in a half day or 2 days, the level of learning is likely to be only of such an amount. Now, that could be enough for one person, or it could be enough for a particular theme. But if you want deeper learning, there is a need for a lot of people to put some time into this, and where we can all look at the undergraduates and say they need to change what they're taught, or we need to change how we teach them. It is the industry that's currently employed. It's the people in this call and beyond who are in businesses. You know, we all, you know, need that upskilling now, and we need to find the ways that are actually attainable within our own lives, and the educators need to help facilitate that.
Yeah, Mark, I might take one other question after that from the chat. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, just to follow on from Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph.
I think that the DASB project provides an opportunity to finally maybe coordinate the higher education sector, that we're not all competing against each other when we're developing programs. So if you look at the module that Joseph has developed there, you know, there's no reason why that module couldn't fit into the program that I'm developing, and so on. So to be able to share those resources across programs will be the first thing. And then you're sharing the resources of the educators as well. The second thing, and Joseph is right about the level of depth you can go into, but a lot of industry, and especially SMEs, are looking for, I've been asked for this, how do I go about responding to it? So, for example, if they're asked for a resource management plan as part of a tender, you know, how do I prepare a resource and waste management plan? So higher education has to sort of rethink itself, and that's why we're looking at the whole micro-credentials, or the link with CPD points, that we can provide these responsive educational learning units or nuggets of units that can be hosted on a platform, that people that go in, and maybe some of those 1 hour learning units will be free and open source, you know, that they don't have to pay for it. What we're ultimately trying to do is improve practice in the industry.
And of course, the Project Ireland 2040, the construction sector group, the work of Build Digital, providing also a coordinated and leading approach to delivering digital adoption would be important also. So I think the DBA team would be really excited about working alongside the DASB team, you know, because there's no point in reinventing the wheel here. You know, we're all in this together, I suppose, and
maybe just to say, forward. I mean, I think, you know, concurring with what Joseph and Mark said is that, you know, in the higher education, we just need to get that little bit smarter and a little more innovative. In, you know, when we design. So we often, what happens is we design a program, a major award, 60, 120 credits, and then somebody says, could we get a micro-credential part of that? So we actually need to do, and we're doing more and more embedded awards and all of those, but we just need to get that down to those micro pieces. And in some cases we can't do it, and we need to be honest and upfront and say, that's not what we do. That's not the best place for TU Dublin or LIT or GMIT to do that. But maybe there's another provider that can do that CPD type activity, and we can support it.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to bring it to a close because we all have other things on this afternoon. And so just to thank the delegates for attending us. We had a very solid attendance today, and they stayed with us right through to the end. To our three great speakers, Seamus, Mark and Joseph, but also to Patrick, and I wish him well. I hope he's well. It's interesting when you look at sort of circularity of the circular economy. For me, simplicity it's about reusing products, and I was really interested to hear of the examples that Joseph provided through EcoCell, AM, OVV, and integrated material solutions. So there's Irish companies, doing this, and actually, I want to take the opportunity to thank Arup and to thank Ditech for their sponsorship of this event. But perhaps we could have other sponsors, other industry, other companies who are actually doing this and acting upon the circular economy principles. So if any of you out there know of any companies that can assist, it's always great. Really excited about the remaining program. I know Joseph, you may have mentioned local authorities. I know Mark did, and so if you the next event in May, we'll be looking at how the local government are responding to this. Yeah, and so I hope you can join us for that. I'd like to thank the CitA team, Suzanne and Shannon and Lenia and Sam, always in the background, putting super team putting this all together for us, and to you for taking the time this afternoon to join us on this journey in 21. So best of luck, Seamus, with the project. Joseph, I'll probably see you in the next few days online. And Mark, as always, it's always great to hear from you, and wish all the team in GMIT all my best. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, everybody.
And thank you.